All right, so if you clicked on this video, assuming it was going to be another artsy fartsy person making fun of sports, that is not what this is, right? I know that the title and like my entire channel being all art, it kind of leads you to believe that I don't like sports, but I do. I actually really like sports, right? I played football, still like working out, like doing all those things. Love watching football. Like I like watching basketball, and hey, all right, I've seen one or two soccer edits that would make me think that that's a sport worth watching. All right, but this is to say that a lot of my criticisms here come out of a place of love, right? Like I enjoy sports. I can understand why you would watch so many sports, right? And that's why I think that saying that sports like as a concept, as a whole, are not worth watching. It's such a bland, basic take. Too boring. No, that's not what we're talking about here, right? So I mean this, right, with full sincerity, right? That I can understand almost every single sport on this planet, right? And why you would want to watch them, right? I do not get baseball. I don't understand the appeal. All right, I think calling it America's pastime is a load of bullshit. All right, I think that if you tried to make baseball today, people would laugh at you. All right, it is a moronic idea behind a sport, right? And I think most of it comes down to the fact that if you ever actually watch a game of baseball, it lasts for 3 fucking hours, which is too long for any game, right? But it lasts 3 hours, but it's not 3 hours of baseball. It's not 3 hours of them throwing pitches and hitting home runs and all the fun parts of baseball. No, 3 hours of bullshit. 3 hours of nothing. Because there isn't a clock in baseball. There isn't time management in baseball. It's just play until someone wins. And you might be saying, well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Like okay, because it'd be one thing if, like, maybe they were playing, a certain number of runs, right? So it's like, like you have to get like you have to get so many runs in an inning before it switches, or I don't know. I guess that's a stupid idea, but like you see how like there should be like some thing that like like okay, first to four runs they earn the point that inning, and then you can switch and like do something like that, right? Or like just have a clock there, something like that. Right. And the reason why I bring this up is because nobody at the end of a baseball game has said, I want to watch more fucking baseball. Nobody has ever thought that. Nobody has ever thought, thank goodness. Thank goodness they're going to overtime. Because nobody's ever thought that. Because baseball is so goddamn slow. It is so goddamn boring. And again, it's like the whatever 10 seconds of content every 3 minutes is pretty fun. Like it's like, oh wow, that was cool. Anyways, time to go back to, scrolling Twitter for the next 3 minutes. Because it's boring. Like I do not understand. I think if it had 4 innings, it would make more sense. But it's the fact that it's like 9 innings, that's ridiculous, right? I think that is a preposterous amount of innings that I don't think makes sense in the goddamn slightest. All right, all right. Every other sport in the world is 4 quarters of something, right? Maybe 2 halves of something, but 9 fucking innings. Could you imagine watching 9 quarters of basketball? Oh my god, you'd be asleep because it doesn't matter. Like basketball and football and all these other sports are at least entertaining to watch moment to moment. But even then, it's just like it'd be exhausting to do. It'd be like it would just everybody involved would be bored and tired and done with it by the time that you got to that final part. Right? The reason why like basketball going to overtime or football going into overtime or whatever other game going into overtime is interesting is because it doesn't happen all the time. If there was always 5 quarters of baseball, of basketball or football or of whatever else, right? It would suck because it would just be like, oh god, because like to play it would just be like you're just kind of running out of stamina at that point, right? Because that's the thing, baseball isn't like it's not an endurance sport. It's a really really hard thing, right? Hitting like a 100 mile an hour baseball sounds horrible. Could never fucking do that, right? But but it's really hard for about 2 seconds. And then there's a bit of running, and then there's a whole lot of fuck all, right? Like it's like again, it's a lot of effort because everything else has kind of more of a flow to it. Baseball is just too start stop for me, right? But I digress, right? This isn't just a video about baseball. It's just been 5 minutes about baseball and how much I dislike baseball, right? But again, there are other things in sports that do confuse me, right? One of the most notable things is in every sport, right? No matter how stupid it is, like there is a goat, a greatest of all time, right? And so the debate of it is very, it's seen as a very important topic, right? Now with some, it's very cut and dry, right? Like with football, if you ask who's the greatest football player of all time, pretty much everybody is gonna be like, yeah, Tom Brady, right? Like it's like he's just kind of the guy, right? But that's I'd say that's more of an outlier than it is a rule, right? But in specifically the case of basketball, specifically, right? Um, I I do not understand how. Like, okay, let me preface this by saying I understand how somebody comes to the conclusion that Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time. Do I think they're correct? Fuck no. Do I think that I would ever support that? Hell no. All right, this is a LeBron household. This is the LeBron channel. If you don't like that, still subscribe. I need the engagement. But regardless, right? All right. Do I think that they're correct? Absolutely not. Right? But do I understand how they got there? Sure, right? Because it's the same way that I got to my love of LeBron, right? It's because I've grown up for the past 20 years or 18 years. He's been in the league longer than I've been alive, right? And he is the basketball guy, right? Like he is the guy, right? And so anytime I've thought of basketball, it's just been him. And so then, especially now that I've gotten a lot more into sports as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, okay, that was why, right? Like, you always go back and you're like, it's because he was really, really good, oddly enough, you know? Because I never got to experience, like, him coming back to Cleveland, getting the block, winning, coming back from 3-1. Yeah, the whole you've heard the glaze time and time again if you're a sports fan. But again, just looking back on those accomplishments, even as somebody that didn't get to experience them, it's just like, wow, that's, I understand why people I understand why people like this guy so much. Yeah, he's pretty cool, right? Like he's getting to play, like he got to play with his own son for a couple of games there, and Bronny sucks, so he got sent to G League. But like, again, when I was growing up, there was LeBron, right? Kobe, because anytime somebody shoots anything at this point, it's still Kobe, right? There's Steph, Shaq, and because I live in Texas, Tim Duncan was another big name, right? And then of course there's like the smaller people, but like those are like your guys, right? And so I just could not like wrap my head around like why someone would like who lived that same experience, right? Who's also 18 to 20 to like like that Gen Z millennial range, right? How you look at your entire life and think, wow, LeBron has been the greatest player of my lifetime, right? You never got to watch those Jordan games in person, so you do not have the like frame of mind to like have the nostalgia for those games, right? And still look me in my eyes and tell me, yeah, no, I think Jordan's better. How? How are you 18 years old arguing that? That is fucking preposterous. Is the GOAT debate like is there an argument to be made for Jordan? Sure, but if you're 18, you shouldn't be making that debate. All right, that's for people that's 30 plus, all right? You get a fucking senior discount if you argue that MJ is the best, right? Because again, you have to have the nostalgia or else it doesn't work, right? Because again, the reason why old people think he's the best is because they want to think that their game was the hardest thing to ever play, right? And the reason why I think he's the best is because he's the guy I'm growing up with, right? And so in 20 years from now, whenever, I don't know, Victor Wembanyama is the best guy in the world, right? I'll still be arguing that LeBron is the best, right? Because it doesn't matter because it's a point of, it's a point of pride. It's like, no, this is my guy. I like my guy more than I like your guy, right? Right? And so again, it's not necessarily that you're wrong. It's that how in the hell did you get to that conclusion? Because like again, even if you go back, like I don't understand the rationale, right? How have you lived your entire life and you've thought like, huh, this is subpar basketball, right? I want to go watch '90s basketball. Nobody's ever said that, right? You ever go back and watch '90s basketball? It's horrible. It's not as fun, right? It's technically less impressive, right? No, it's not to say that modern day basketball is not. It's not great, right? A lot of threes, but that's a whole other conversation about how them getting a lot better has kind of made the sport a lot more boring to watch because, watching people in the paint doing stuff is fun. The issue is Michael wasn't the best at that, so it's like, you can argue like if that's your argument for like a Shaq goat debate, like that's one thing. If you're like, I just like that physical domination aspect, I would say A, you might be a little homosexual, and B, good for you, right? Like again, like if you make an argument for any other player short of specifically Michael Jordan as like a 20 something, fine, right? If you want to say like if you want to say any other player, right? But MJ specifically for 20 somethings pissed me off, right? But yeah, that is most of my tirade for this. Also, you might be noticing, wow, kind of looks like you didn't draw any of the faces of these players, and that's because I got lazy. You ever try to draw Derrick Henry running? Look up a fucking picture. It's horrible. It's fucking horrible. All right, I love Derrick Henry as a player. Cannot stand like drawing him. Right? Shohei Ohtani. Right? Looked at his face. I was like, that's kind of a weird angle to draw it at. Not dealing with it. Right? Stephen Curry. I was like, if you ever see a picture of Stephen Curry shooting a basketball, it's never a flattering angle, which means it's harder to draw. So if you're wondering why there's no faces on them, that's why. It's because I'm lazy, right? Also, this drawing still took like 2 fucking hours, so like it still ended up being too long, right? Regardless, though, that was my tirade. A lot of this was just like I was watching Lions versus Bears on Thanksgiving, and I got to thinking. Regardless, that's if I have any other sports opinions, you can make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to make sure that you get notified when I drop them here on the Gidio Gamer channel. Again, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Everybody in the comments below can tell me how baseball is actually an incredible sport and I don't understand it, and it definitely should be America's pastime. It shouldn't be, but regardless, you go down, argue if you'd like. I will not care. But yeah, so again, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your existence if this is the last video of mine that you see.